and welcome to Tech Smarter. My name is Abbie Richie. I'm the tech guru at the Smarter service, and you can find me right here every Wednesday talking with the innovators, the operators, and the investors that are changing the face of aging services. It's a fantastic place to be. It's a conversation that we just continue to have because there's so much developing here. In fact, I want to say yesterday at Asha was so exciting. I got to run into a lot of my favorite people at the conference, including this guy. We've got Kyle Rand, and I always have an illuminating conversation with him. And I ran into some other friends such as Nicole Will and Kevin Bowden of MBK. So that was a lot of fun. And Don Ogus of Human Good. Love running into people, love seeing these folks at conferences. Couldn't be happier that it took place right here in Phoenix, Arizona, and like the weather was amazing. So thank you, Phoenix. Thank you, Asha. I want to go ahead and first of all, thank Leading Age Arizona for sponsoring this episode and for the Smarter service for producing it. And now I'd like to bring on my guest today. We have Katie Griffith of Bright Solutions. Welcome back, Katie, to Tech Smarter.
Thank you, Abbie. It's so good to be here. I appreciate you hosting me.
Yeah, my pleasure. Katie, for those who are not familiar with you, could you please tell us how you got into the space and what you do at Bright Solutions?
Yes, absolutely. So I entered the senior living space 25 years ago. Fresh out of college, I started working for a software company that was entering this space. And so they hired me and said, we're entering this new market called senior living and you're going to go implement technology in these locations. And so ever since then, I never left senior living. I fell in love with it, the mission, the people. I absolutely love it. And I love helping people use technology who maybe aren't used to using technology. And so that's where the journey began. Fast forward 11 years ago, I started Bright Solutions as a technology consulting firm, and we're exclusively serving senior living providers. So really just helping them optimize the way they use technology, whatever that technology might be, to operate their senior living organization.
100%. You know, what I found in doing research with the Smarter service is that typically communities are only leveraging about 10% of the technology that they have in place. And so there's just such a big gap there. There's a digital divide. And a lot of it has to do with instruction. It has to do with retention. It has to do with, with really someone teaching people how to use technology, especially when it comes to the resident side, over and over and over again, so that it really gets used. Have you found that as well?
Absolutely. It has to be used the way that you are expecting it to be used. So it's not just the vendor showing up and giving the how-to training. That's important, but the leaders need to come in and teach their folks, this is the way that we are going to use this technology in our organization within our workflows.
Got it. Got it. A newer type of technology has entered the playing field, and we've heard so much about AI, AI, AI. And as I was doing some research in regards to what you've been up to, I saw that there's this term shadow AI. And, in a community, we know senior living staff, they're already using ChatGPT behind the scenes to draft care plans or summarize meetings or something like that. In your consulting work, what is the most surprising way you've seen shadow AI appear?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I'm not surprised, but I will share some examples that I've encountered even just recently. So it is rampant. There were some studies by KPMG across the board saying, half of your employees are using whatever flavor ChatGPT, Grok, Perplexity that they like to use at their desk. And a third of those employees are not telling their leadership that they are using it. So it is happening. And some examples just of late that I've encountered. We have a client, and I was invited to a call with their director of nursing and some of us that were working on a project, right? I wasn't able to attend the call. And the director of nursing had Otter, which is an AI note taker, right, that she has been using on her calls. So
Mhm.
I received an email as a third party, right? I'm not part of this organization, but I was an invitee on the meeting. So I received an email of a summary recap of the meeting, of the call, and a recording, a link where I could go watch the recording of the call. Well, that's great, but not really, because luckily there was no HIPAA, information shared on that call. But this is the director of nursing, and so every call that she attends, this is happening, right? Everyone on the invite gets a copy of this. So, and then there's just things like that where people don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
Another example is I had a client, and an employee had uploaded the resident handbook to like ChatGPT, just kind of a public whatever AI they like to use, so they could query it, and it made it really convenient for them, as well as someone was uploading a P&L statement, to query on that. And so these are examples of things that we really don't want our employees doing. It is a security risk, um, and but there's these individuals don't know what they don't know. How are they supposed to know better? They would not have volunteered this information. In those other cases, they just kind of told me what they were doing without any, hesitation, because they don't realize that they shouldn't be doing that. And that is, there's no excuse for not being proactive in your organization to really bring this to the surface and talk about it and make a plan.
Yeah, I am reminded that quite often, even our residents don't know what they don't know, and that they want to know everything. And, just bringing ideas to them like, here's what the current frauds are, here's what some scams are, here's how you can use your device so that you are utilizing it to the utmost, or here's how you can use AI, for instance. These are all things that typically a resident might be afraid to ask and might go seek on their own. And we want to guide them at the Smarter service so that they're knowledgeable, but they're also safe at the same time. And but I want to ask you about what kind of framework do you put into place when you're working with a community, and in order to provide the type of structure and safety around the use of technology like this?
Absolutely. So, a framework that we're using is allow, guard, and grow. So, we can talk about that. And the first step is allow. So, we want to acknowledge what's happening. And I love that you just used that example with residents and scams and things. Very similarly, with the residents, we want to encourage them to feel that it's safe to tell us that they've been a victim of a scam, right? Or that they're not sure and they feel like they may have been tricked into something. Employees, we want them to speak up and say, I think I clicked on something I wasn't supposed to. It's the same thing with this AI use, this shadow AI use at their desk. We want to create a safe place where employees can say, I'm using AI at my desk. I'm using Perplexity. I like Gemini. I like to use this. We want to encourage that and make it safe, because the examples I just shared with you, that is leadership's fault. It's not those employees' faults. And a great way to make it safe for people to speak up and say they're using it is for leadership to say, it is my fault. It is my fault if we're doing unsafe practices with AI, because we haven't even talked about it here. So how are you supposed to know? And now we're going to work together to proactively make sure that we all know how to safely use this. And by the way, we also want you to be good at using it, because it is a really powerful tool. And let's not pretend that, this isn't like, oh, should we use it or not? That's like saying, you know, 20 years ago, should we, or 10 years ago, should we be using the internet? You know, should
Yeah.
we give everyone a PC for their desk or not?
Mhm.
No, maybe some people will just keep using paper. We're not going to give them a PC. Like, that's not the reality. So let's bring it to the surface because we have to acknowledge it, make it safe, and then talk about what we're going to allow within our organization.
Now, on the flip side to that, are there many organizations that are banning the use of AI?
Probably. So we don't want to ban, because if we ban AI, I mean, we can't, right? It's like banning the internet. But yes, people are just blocking access to it, and I think it's okay to say, within our network, we're going to block you from being able to get to these sites until we can come together and have a conversation and put in the guardrails, and talk about what's safe and how to use this. But overall, we can't just ban it and then push it underground. Then people are just going to be pretending they're not using it. And if we're all just pretending that it's not happening, then we're not able to talk about it, and we're not able to discuss how to be safe with it, and make plans of how we're going to use it safely and experiment with it.
It's really funny that you mentioned this because every year around this time of year in the past, I would promote a workshop on for senior living communities on safe online dating for older adults. Okay, and because I know it's taking place in their communities, I know it for sure. But so many communities were like, no, we're not going to talk about that. Nope, we're not going to talk about that. And what happens is that people are then left to their own devices, right? And you're unable to really share why it's so important to be safe and what to be looking out for. So I love that you mentioned that, because when we make something forbidden, it often becomes dangerous at that point. And like, we really want to create an environment where curiosity is safer than secrecy. So, and you mentioned having those guardrails in place. I know that step 2 is guard. Could you share what that part means, please?
Yes, absolutely. So you do want to talk about what are we going to allow, right? And so we'll work with your IT department, work internally, and really be proactive about this and lead the charge, and create your decisions around what are we going to allow, and then how do we need to guard what we are allowing. And so the first thing you can say is, well, I don't know, how do we guard today? So, do our employees upload confidential documents to Google search? Probably not. They know not to do that, I hope. Do they just upload confidential information to places on the internet that are, you know, open and public? Probably not. So we want to start, and I think part of the challenge is that a lot of leaders are uncomfortable. They feel like they don't know, it's so new, right? So they're like, they know how to kind of work towards HIPAA compliance, right? And keep the medical information secure, but they're not really sure like what happens when we upload things to, ChatGPT and things like that. So they feel insecure about, what exactly they need to do, but we need to work on it. We need to learn that, right? So but we don't need to panic. We don't need to just panic and go, I don't know what to do. We need to talk about it. We need to internally talk about it. We need to pull in our IT, our cybersecurity experts, and we need to talk about it and make a plan.
Yes, and it sounds like education is the way to go here. Just informing, being clear, uh, rolling out this type of AI initiative. And the guardrails, they're not just for staff, like they're also essential for resident trust. And, one thing that we're always trying to do at the Smarter Service is to protect their digital footprint. and helping them build a foundation of safety so that they're not sharing too much information on the internet or like on Facebook, for instance. It's so vital. And in a clinical and caregiving setting, we really have to think about these type of guardrails. And do you recommend to ensure staff are using professional judgment rather than just trusting an AI output? Because AI can give you so many various outputs, right? Like it can provide incorrect information. So how do you guide a community towards getting accurate information?
Absolutely. So, we need to test and test and test and train and train and train. And so once we've opened up the lines of communication and we've said, "Hey everyone, let's talk about this. Let's make it safe for us to experiment," right? So whether it's our own corporate a secure place in order to use the chat GPTs of the world or Copilot, whatever it might be, and explaining what you can and can't do with that safely, or the public versions and how you can use those safely. So once we've established that, then we can start testing and we can start experimenting. And we should do this together. So we should have champions, we should have work groups, and we should come together and learn from each other because it is evolving. The prompts and things that work well today may not work as well tomorrow. And so we need to work on this together and learn from each other. We need to test and try and experiment. Which prompts seem to get better results, and the hallucinations are reducing more and more, but they're still there, and just poor quality. Just, the things just spit out something that is redundant or too wordy or, whatever that might be. And so let's work together. Let's try and experiment and share and collaborate every step of the way and learn. But yes, we really want to validate the outputs. And I hope that if you haven't established champions and workshops yet, that you're not already using it to like create a care plan. So we got to crawl, walk, run, and then we can really develop some great tools.
It sounds a lot like the way communities have been handling their resident tech support demand.
Right.
They're often band-aiding it together, doing like a little bit of this and maybe getting some high schoolers or some volunteers in, but there's no true cohesive professional approach.
Right.
And actually, that's what we provide at the Smarter Service. We've professionalized this. And it sounds like you are also professionalizing a community's approach to using AI. Is that accurate?
Yes, absolutely. And it has to be proactive. It has to be intentional. And we have a framework, but the organization has to lead this. And it's not just IT leads it, but the organization has to lead it and has to stay. This is not a one and done. Okay, let's type up our policy and email it to everyone. This is evolving. There's really no choice, and it is there's no excuse for not being proactive on this.
Yeah, it's leads me to the next step, and that's step 3 in your process, which is grow, and a way to grow AI usage so that it actually gives staff more time for residents rather than just automating everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So grow is really where, okay, we've put up the guardrails, we've figured out that what we can use and how we can use it. Now we're going to experiment, but now we need to upskill our employees on how to be good at using it. And so there might be people who aren't comfortable at all and people who have already played around with it a lot, themselves, at their desk or at home. And but we need to be ready to really help people build their skill set for using AI. And as far as, people get worried about like, oh, is it just going to take our jobs? And well, you know, no. So, uh, if we don't want to get rid of the human interaction. And so if we were to take away the hours and hours per week that people spend compiling reports, right? Like, oh, we need to look at the data this way and that way, and then send it to folks who need it, or gathering data to for care planning for residents. And oh my gosh, do I have all the information on this resident and figure out and make sure the care plan's right? Or do we want, if we're able to take away those tasks, do you think that's going to increase or decrease human connection within that organization?
Definitely increase it.
Right. So AI is increasing our ability to interact with humans, because it's taking away all of that busy work and all of that reading and consuming information to be able to do a good job, and anticipate resident needs and preferences, and anticipate what our coworkers need.
Yeah, it sounds to me like there is an AI divide, just as there's a digital divide when it comes to older adults. There's an AI divide among staff, and I'm wondering how your framework helps an organization bring everyone along so that even the most tech-resistant employee feels empowered.
Absolutely. So, again, we want to meet them where they are, just like we do with our residents, right? Just like the Smarter service does with residents. We're not going to force everyone to do the same thing, to be as good as everyone else at using technology. But we need to make sure that we have created a safe environment for our employees to experiment and to learn how AI works. So, even if they've never used it before, we can help them start to experiment. And what's great is that it is early in the AI platform shift. So not every single employee has to be really good at it yet, right? So we just want to start bringing everyone on the journey wherever they are. And incrementally move them along on this journey to experiment and learn. And I mess up with AI all the time. Like I do things and I'm like, this is stupid. This is not what I was trying to get it to do. Right. Um, I am learning, I am experimenting, and it gives me more and more information about how it works. And if anyone acts like they're just this expert that's perfect at using it, they're lying. So we're all in this together, and we need to just communicate that and cultivate this culture of experimentation that's safe. Um, again, like I was saying, it's kind of like the internet. It's like saying, well, are we going to teach everyone to use the internet, or are we going to give everyone email who works in an office? It's like, yes, yes, we are eventually. So we need to start understanding it even a little bit.
And it really does come from the top down, right? It comes from leaderships. And I know that many executives may think that AI is an IT problem, but why is your method of allow, guard, and grow actually a leadership strategy rather than a technical one?
Because IT is not going to set your vision. What is your vision for your organization, and what you want to achieve with technology as a whole, which inevitably is going to include AI? They're not in charge of driving change, culture change. IT is not in charge of change management and communications and training. What they are there for is sitting at the table as these visions are created and as these plans are developed, so that they can inform how this could technically work in our environment at our organization, how we can make sure that we're adhering to all of our cybersecurity and privacy requirements. So they are an integral part of this journey. But do you think that, does the IT department, should they show up to the clinical department and say, oh, you want to automate clinical documentation? Let me show you what your new workflow is going to be. Like, that's not going to fly. That's not going to go over very well. So the clinical department has to lead this effort of automating clinical documentation with IT at their side, guiding them with, here's what's possible, here's what's possible, what's not possible, how to do this in a secure way. But clinical needs to drive, how are we going to do this?
Got it. I'm seeing another parallel here. It's sort of like in the community when they start thinking about offering resident tech support, like we're always trying to remind them that this is happening on every single level of your community. It impacts your marketing, it impacts sales, it impacts maintenance, it impacts your front desk activities, because
Mhm.
technology is something that is in every single aspect across every department. And so it's a huge differentiator, just like the use of implementing AI within a community.
Absolutely. Yes. Yep.
Now, I know that you work with communities across the country. I want to ask you specifically about Florida. What have you noticed when it comes to technology within Florida communities? Any differences regionally?
Well, I think we have a slightly lower number of traditional CCRCs. So we have a lot of assisted living and skilled nursing here in Florida. And then, we just have a high population of seniors, right? Whether they're living at a community or not. And so I feel like we really want to focus on the scam prevention for seniors in Florida, because I feel like they're really a big target here. I know they are across the country, but that's something that I feel like is really kind of different about Florida. And then from a just general technology within aging services in Florida, um, I think that we're making some big leaps as far as really talking more about how to be effective with technology within the operations here in Florida. And I hope and I see an energy across the country. So it's really kind of lifting all boats as we continue to really encourage people to get in the driver's seat of how they're going to innovate and use technology at their organization.
Get in the driver's seat already, right? Speaking of that and making leaps, looking ahead, how do you anticipate allow guard grow, that mindset change showing up in senior living within the next 5 years?
Sure. So we can try to predict what it's going to look like in 5 years with AI, right? But we're probably going to be wrong. But what I can say, what I do think the outcomes will be in 5 years is just information surfacing up to individuals as they need it. So again, we're not sitting there building reports forever. We're not sitting there digging for information, compiling, cross-referencing. It's just, I'm delivering care or service according to my organization's care model or service model, and I have a supercomputer in my pocket. Probably won't be in my pocket in 5 years, right? I got my glasses on or whatever it is,
Yeah.
and it's just going to coach me throughout my day, and it's going to give me the information that I need when I need it throughout the day. So our little concierge, um, it's honestly, it's a supercomputer that we're all just going to be able to have at our fingertips, each of us individually. And what it is, the outcome will be is more meaningful work. And when I say meaningful work, it means creativity. It means engaging with residents and with our coworkers.
So you have this invisible concierge, right, for both
That's
staff
right.
and families. And the smarter service is like the human component to it that's helping residents and staff put it all together. I just love that.
Mhm.
I want to give you an opportunity to share how people can get in touch with you for more information.
Yes, absolutely. So, whether you're coming to us on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook right now, we're there. So, look up Bright Solutions. YouTube is at Bright Solutions Consulting. I think it's similar handles on the other platforms. Look for me on LinkedIn, and then certainly go to our website, brightsolutions.co. And it's scrolling there at the bottom of your screen right now. So come to our website and please sign up for our newsletter, the Bright Brief. I have a special announcement. So because I love this industry so much, I have a Valentine's Day gift for senior living exclusively. So on Valentine's Day, we're going to be releasing our AI toolkit exclusively for senior living. And this is going to allow you to implement the things that we just talked about. It's going to have guides and resources for you to roll out your policies and training and so forth. So please sign up for our newsletter on our website, The Bright Brief, and you will be the first to know when that AI toolkit is released on Valentine's Day.
I love it. I love it. Katie, thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you to Leading Age Arizona for sponsoring this episode. And we will see you all back here next week.
Bye-bye.